Narcissists can create the illusion that they know us better than we know ourselves, better than anyone else does. And when we hold this belief, it can give them the power to destroy our self-worth and warp the image that we have of ourselves. If this is something that you have struggled with, what I want to do in this video is help you look at things in a way that can help you see that the narcissist is wrong about you. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. One reason that narcissists can be so convincing when they tell us negative things about ourselves is that they themselves are so adamant. When somebody that we love, trust, and/or respect is adamant about something about us that isn't favorable or isn't great, it's really hard to just dismiss it. It's really hard to just assume that they're imagining things or that they're being unfair when they're so adamant, when it seems like they really, really believe what they're saying. Especially when this is someone that we respect or love or trust. Why would they say something that isn't at least partially true, right? So this can really convince us that whatever it is they're complaining about must be at least partially true. But when we're talking about narcissists, in many instances, it's true. They really do believe what they're saying about you. Now, some narcissists will just make things up. Some narcissists know that what they're saying is completely untrue and that they are just saying these things to control your emotions, to destroy your self-esteem in order to gain control of you and be able to tell you what they think you should do in order to earn approval from them or whatever. But many narcissists believe what they're saying about you. They really think that you are inconsiderate, rude, stupid, lazy, all these things that they say. The same way that a 3-year-old really believes what they're saying when they are throwing a tantrum, saying things like, "You're stupid, I hate you, you're mean." I mean, they really believe what they're saying, but when we look at a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum, we understand that their beliefs aren't based on anything rational, and as soon as they take a nap or have a cookie, they're going to completely change their opinion of us or whoever they're talking about, because these opinions aren't based on reality or anything rational. When a grown adult is adamantly telling us how awful we are, it's a lot harder to understand how baseless these things are. How they are just as baseless as the opinions of an angry 3-year-old, because it's a grown adult that is supposed to have some kind of ability to override irrational emotions by this point, but it really is no different. Now, one really insidious method of tearing you down and telling you bad things about yourself that a narcissist will use, either consciously or unconsciously, is to make generalizations. And this is something that we probably won't even notice or even think about. Anyone that makes generalizations about anyone else is almost always being unfair, even if they're saying something good about somebody. It is really unfair and almost always inaccurate to make generalizations about people. So what am I talking about here? Let's say that every time you leave the house, you slam the door, and you're not even thinking about this. You're not doing it on purpose. You don't realize you're doing it, but somebody who cares about you, that maybe lives with you, is going to come to you and say, "Hey, could you stop slamming the door? Every time you leave the house, you slam the door and it startles me or it wakes me up or whatever," right? And you're going to say, hopefully you're going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that." And you're going to make an effort to stop slamming the door. And then that's it. That's the end of the situation, right? Hopefully. But if you're dealing with a narcissist or a toxic, abusive type person, they're going to generalize. They're going to make a generalization. They're going to say, "Hey, you slam the door every time you leave the house. Why are you so inconsiderate? Why are you so noisy? Why can't you hear what you're doing? Why don't you pay attention to what you're doing? Instead of just addressing the isolated problem of, hey, will you stop slamming the door? They make a generalization that because you're slamming the door, you must be rude and inconsiderate in general. You must be a really noisy person in general. And here's the evidence, you always slam the door. One more example, let's say that every time you make a sandwich, you leave the bread out. It's just a bad habit you have and you haven't thought much of it, right? Somebody that cares about you, who is annoyed by this, will come to you and say, hey, can you put the bread away when you're done with it? I'm tired of having to put it away for you. Even if they're very annoyed by this, this is probably the type of thing they're going to say to you. Can you please stop doing this, right? And hopefully you're going to say something like, oh, sorry, okay. And then you're hopefully going to put an effort into putting the bread away from now on because it bothers this person that you care about and who cares about you. A narcissist or toxic abusive person, on the other hand, is going to say, hey, why do you leave the bread out every time you use it? You're so lazy, or you're so forgetful. This could apply to, maybe it's your job to take the garbage out every week, but maybe sometimes you forget. And yeah, this is really annoying, right? You need to learn to stop forgetting to take the garbage out. Somebody that cares about you will say, hey, can you do something to remind yourself to quit forgetting to take the garbage out? The garbage is piling up. It's really annoying, right? But a toxic, a narcissistic, abusive person will say something like, why are you so forgetful? Why are you so inconsiderate? Why are you so irresponsible? They're making a generalization based on one problem that could be solved with that one problem, right? And when this is somebody that we trust, that we care about, this is really easy to fall for, to buy into, because they have evidence, right? I know that for a lot of us, and at least speaking for myself, when somebody tries to tell you that you are not this thing that the narcissist has told you you are, like you are not lazy, you are not inconsiderate, you are not noisy, or whatever, you might say to yourself, yeah, I know that I'm not inconsiderate or whatever, but there's this little voice in the back of your head that says, well, but I was really inconsiderate. I did slam the door. That was inconsiderate, right? Or I did leave the bread out. I did forget to take the garbage out. I was forgetful. I was lazy. I mean, they weren't totally wrong, right? I was those things. Listen, every single one of us, every person walking the earth will have moments, or they will have isolated habits in which they are doing something that is inconsiderate, or rude, or lazy, or maybe something that's a little stupid, or sloppy, or whatever. We all do things that can be labeled as something that would be considered a character flaw. Nobody's perfect. We all do these things from time to time. It doesn't mean that we are an inconsiderate person in general, or a lazy person in general, or a stupid person in general. It means that we did something that could be labeled that way by somebody that's looking at it from a certain perspective. The narcissist needs to see you as whatever it is they actually believe about themselves. They are projecting their own beliefs about themselves. Whatever they are accusing you of, it's very likely that that's actually what they believe deep down about themselves. And if you really think about it, a lot of these things you could probably observe is something they do a lot more than you do. I know that there was one particular person that was constantly telling me how inconsiderate I was. And then when I really thought about it, they were far more inconsiderate than I was, but I would have never said that to them. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, this same person would tell me how I never listened to anything that they would say. But the opposite was far more true. They would listen to me far less than I would listen to them. I also think narcissists believe things about themselves that aren't true, or that become self-fulfilling prophecies. And, I'm not going to split hairs too much about this, but the bottom line is narcissists have some very toxic, pathologically damaging, horrible beliefs about themselves, whether they're conscious of it or not. And they want to project that onto you. They don't want to deal with what they believe about themselves, whether they're right or wrong, or whether there's any seed of truth to what they believe about themselves. That doesn't matter. These are truths they have about themselves that they don't want to deal with, that they are looking for an excuse. They are looking for evidence that can help them pin that belief onto you. And that's how they solve the problem. So if they believe that they're stupid, for example, instead of thinking about that and trying to think of ways that they could improve themselves or improve their self-image or do things that are contrary to what is making them believe this about themselves, instead of self-improvement or developing self-awareness, their solution is to just find somebody else who is stupid and find evidence for this so that they can feel better about themselves. And anytime that belief, that feeling creeps up that makes them think, I'm really stupid, they can immediately solve that and soothe themselves by thinking, no, this person's stupid because they don't know how to fold the towels right. They don't know how to tie their shoes the right way. They're stupid. I saw the proof that they're stupid. Or no, they're inconsiderate, not me. I'm not inconsiderate. They're inconsiderate because they slam the door all the time. That's why when a narcissist complains about something like you slam the door, therefore you're now an inconsiderate jerk. When you try to work on this, when you try to stop slamming the door, it doesn't solve anything. I've been in many situations like this where the person in my life will continue complaining that I'm slamming the door or whatever the situation is, even though I'm consciously really trying not to. And it can get to the point where you think you must be losing your mind because you're not slamming the door anymore. Every time you are really trying to shut it as quietly as you can. This can almost get comical and cartoonish in how quietly you're trying to close the door and how the narcissist will continue to complain about you slamming the door because the narcissist isn't interested in solving the problem. Like the person who cares about you, the person who just says, hey, can you stop slamming the door? Because they are simply concerned that you are slamming the door and it is annoying. The narcissist wants you to slam the door. They want that evidence that you're the one who's inconsiderate. And if you stop slamming the door, they have to find some other reason, some other evidence to prove that you're the inconsiderate one now. And this can really set apart the difference between a normal relationship and a relationship with a narcissistic person. When they complain about things you've done and you try to stop doing it, or you try to do what they want to make them happy and it doesn't help. The problem doesn't get any better. They don't seem at all satisfied. They don't seem to recognize any effort you're putting into it. Whereas a quote normal person who says, hey, can you stop slamming the door? When you stop slamming the door, the problem is solved and it's fine. And that's the end of it. With a narcissist, the problem is never solved. They will either continue to insist that you are slamming the door when you're not, or they'll just come up with something new to prove that you are the inconsiderate one. So what I'm really hoping to tear apart here is the idea that it is even valid to tell anyone that they are generally some horrible character flaw, that they are generally stupid or lazy or inconsiderate or sloppy or whatever. But another reason that a narcissist's judgment of you and your character can be so convincing is because of the way that we are projecting onto them. We assume that this person cares about us the same way we care about them. And when somebody cares about us and we believe they care about us, but they start complaining that we are X, Y, and Z, we assume there must be validity to this because why else would they be saying this to us? If we don't understand that they are simply projecting something that's all about them, because to a narcissist, everything is all about them, we have nothing to do but assume that this must be a valid complaint. This must be something that came up for them because they were observing us. We must have done something to trigger this judgment. Because for us, from our perspective, I want you all to try to think of someone in your life who you truly care about. Maybe you love this person, or you have a lot of really good feelings about them. You really care about them as a person. But if you were being honest, maybe you think this person is not the sharpest tool in the shed, okay? Or maybe you think this person is lazy, or maybe you even think they're inconsiderate, but you also care about them, okay? Would you ever go up to them and say, hey, I think you're stupid, or hey, I think you're lazy? Even if you really thought that about them, if you really cared about someone, you wouldn't say these things to them, even if you personally believed these things. I'm watching this while I'm editing, and I feel like I want to clarify this point a little bit, because I'm sure that we've all said things to people we care about that we regret later. But I more want to emphasize the idea that if you think of someone in your mind that you really care about, but you have these beliefs about them, I mean, do you think it's okay? Do you think it's acceptable to just go up and say something general to them? You might say, I think you're being lazy when you do X, Y, and Z, but I don't think you'd go up to somebody you really care about and just tell them some generalized insult and then somehow think that that was an okay thing to do. Whereas a narcissistic person will do that, and then they will double down on it. They will refuse to apologize, and they will just keep insisting on why you are whatever it is they insist you are. And I just don't think that anyone would really do that to somebody that they truly care about, even if they really did think you were lazy or inconsiderate or whatever. So this isn't a perfect example, but I hope you get the gist. And so when somebody does it to us, somebody that we think cares about us, it makes it all the more convincing. Because why would they say something like that if they didn't really believe it? It must be really important to them, right? But now I want you to put yourself back into this position of your perspective, thinking about this person that you care about, who, in your opinion, has this trait of whatever it is, lazy, inconsiderate, not the sharpest tool. I know for me, one reason that I would never say to them that I think that they are this thing is not only because I don't want to hurt their feelings, but because I understand that my perspective, my understanding of them is limited to my interaction with them. I don't really have a right to tell this person, hey, I think you're lazy, okay? Even if they have done things, even if to me this opinion is valid based on my experience with them, for me to project that onto them and tell them you are a lazy person, I don't really have the knowledge or the right to say that to them, because I'm only basing my opinion on my own experience. And to try to explain this a little better, imagine that you have a job that you kind of hate, you're sick of it, you're not motivated anymore, you show up every day because you have to, but they don't treat you very good, you're not paid very well, or you're just absolutely sick to death of the busy work. Maybe you don't see the point in what you're doing, okay? I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this, but let's say you have a job like this, and so you've gotten to the point where you just do the bare minimum, and maybe you leave a lot of things undone because you don't really see the point in doing them, and you don't really go the extra mile, you don't really put a whole lot of effort in because of how you feel about this job. Now, maybe your boss or your supervisor thinks you're a lazy person, because from their perspective, you are. That is the slice of you that they see. That's the part of you that they are observing. And their opinion of you as a lazy person is valid from their experience. But they don't really have a right to come up to you and say, hey, you are a lazy person, because they don't know that about you in general. They can't really make that generalization because they're not you. They don't really know what's going on in your head. They don't know why you're acting the way you are. They don't know why the part of you that they can see is making you look lazy. From their perspective, yes, you are being lazy, but they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the broad view to be able to say you are a lazy person. And neither does really anyone in your life, even the people that you are the closest to. Anybody that has a sweeping, broad, negative view of some character flaw they think you have, they might have good reason to think that, but they don't understand you enough. They are not you. They are not in your head. They don't have a right to make a sweeping generalization about the kind of person you are. You are the only person who really has the opportunity to fully understand why you do the things you do, how you feel about things, what your intentions are, what kind of person you are. You are the only one with enough information to make an accurate, sweeping generalization of the kind of person that you are. And even then, it's really difficult for even us to do that for ourselves in an accurate way, right? The narcissist makes these broad, sweeping generalizations about you because they are based on what the narcissist believes about themselves. It has nothing to do with you. They have looked for these tiny pieces of evidence. They have looked for them so that they can feel better about themselves, so that they can make sweeping generalizations about you. But the narcissist doesn't even know the first thing about who you are because they have spent the entire relationship looking for evidence that they, the narcissist, are what they hope to be. They have not spent 1 minute looking for who you really are outside of how they can push your buttons, how they can manipulate you. The narcissist has spent the entire relationship looking for evidence of their own self-worth, of their own ego, by your reactions, by your supply, your feedback, your validation. The narcissist only cares about how they feel about themselves, how they view themselves. The narcissist's opinion of you only holds value to them in how it makes them feel about themselves. The narcissist does not care if you are lazy or smart or stupid or hardworking or beautiful or ambitious or whatever. The narcissist doesn't care about anything to do with you unless it can make them feel a certain way about themselves. So if they can convince you and make you lazy, and that makes them feel better about the belief that they had that they were lazy, that's why they're going to tell you that. It is not because you are actually lazy. And no one could ever really possibly know that about you. No one could ever possibly be able to make a sweeping generalization of some character flaw you have, because no one knows you better than you know yourself. No one knows what your intentions are. And anyone who tries to tell you that you are something that you're not, or something that hurts you, something that damages your self-esteem, something that they really couldn't possibly really know about you, they are lying to you. And they're probably lying to themselves. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.